episode 81 on the 9 Point Started with a Dream podcast.
Welcome to 9 Point Started with a Dream podcast. Our goal is to showcase the stories of athletes and the community that supports them by being authentic about their journey. Here's your host, Jacoby Gillum.
Yo, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jacoby Gillum. So, question for you. If you could play your sport abroad, where would you go? Would you go to Italy? Would you go to Greece? Would you go to Spain? Would you go to South America, Australia? Where would you go? This episode right here, we have Marisa Field, and we go through her athletic journey as a pro volleyball player and how she's been able to experience the world and different cultures and experience by playing the sport she loves. So great journey here, great story about her story and what she's up to in her next chapter. So I hope you enjoy and let's get to it. So Marisa, the question that everyone that comes on is, when you were younger as an athlete, what was one of your biggest dreams and goals you wanted to achieve?
Actually, I was just thinking about this. I used to have this, way back when you had MSN, Messenger thing, or ICQ, those instant messaging things on your computer. My little bio thing was pro volleyballer. And it was kind of a joke because I didn't even know what that meant at the time. And I just thought, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to be a pro volleyballer, but had no idea how I was going to get there or what that meant. So I guess that was always kind of an idea in the head, but actually I was kind of a nerd in high school, and I actually was planning to be a chemist. I went to university with the intention of that, and somehow volleyball took over my life. So, yeah.
Okay, so when you say you're going to be a chemist, how do you see that working out? NASA type stuff? What kind of chemist were you trying to be?
Well, I wasn't entirely sure, but I loved chemistry when I was in high school, and I started my first year at college in my hometown, actually, with the intention of doing 4 years playing volleyball, but graduating and doing chemistry after. And then kind of the whole course of my life changed. So yeah.
That's awesome. So you had your MSN bio saying pro volleyball player.
Yeah.
So when you wrote that and then life started happening, how did you start saying, all right, how can I make this reality?
Yeah, I think actually, I was just trying to remember when I started playing volleyball. I think I was about 12, which is crazy now to think about, because I was wow, that's actually been 2 decades now that I've been playing volleyball. I'm 32 now, so yeah, it's kind of crazy. But I think the starting kind of jump off point for me was when I made Team BC from Kelowna, BC, and I made the provincial team when I was 14, I think, and I just remember them calling me very raw was the word they used for me, because I was actually terrible, but I jumped really high back then, and I guess I had potential, so they took me. And I think I did an interview, it was that year or the year after, something for them, and I think I did something one day I want to wear the maple leaf on my back and play for Team Canada. And I had said that then, and I didn't really know what it took to get there, but eventually that became my path. So
that's dope right there, because I know because there's so many of us that have these aspirations, that say, I want to be an Olympian, I want to do all these things, and people laugh at them sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, you can't do that. So how did you keep in your mindset they may laugh at my dream, but I'm still gonna chase them?
Well, originally when I started playing volleyball, I didn't even really want to play volleyball. I started dance when I was 3 years old. So I danced all the way up until the end of my high school. And my mom had kind of encouraged me, or sort of gently pushed me to play volleyball. And at the time I liked basketball more, which is funny now because I ended up deciding basketball was too much running for me. So I ended up, I was doing all 3 things. I was dancing and I was playing volleyball and basketball kind of into high school. And then I kind of weaned out basketball and then phased out dance because volleyball seemed like the better future option to go with. So yeah, I started at college and I graduated when I was 16. So I was super young, and I had offers to go to other schools in the States and other Canadian universities. And I ended up wanting to just stay at home. And I had a really good, the volleyball program it was actually called OUC back then, but it's the UBCO now, University of British Columbia, Okanagan. So that was in Kelowna. And the coach was Steve Manuel, who was one of my mentor coaches still to this day. And he kind of had a big role to play in my progression of volleyball. So after my first year there, I got recruited to go to UBC in Vancouver with Doug Reimer and his team. And it was kind of a scary move to consider. And I went, I played 2 years with Steve and Kelowna, and then I ended up making the transfer to UBC Vancouver and into it was called CIS back then. It's like all changed now. I'm so old, but U Sport now, like the Canadian university system. So I ended up going there in my 3rd year. And after my 1st year there, I actually got invited to try out for the national team. So it was just kind of like crazy because after my 1st year at UBC, a lot of the players on UBC were playing on the national team. And that was kind of like became more of a sort of realistic goal, I guess you would say. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe after a couple more years, like I'll have a chance to try out. And it was just kind of a really strange process how I ended up getting a tryout and then ended up making it. And that was when I was 19. And so things just kind of took off from there.
Wow. So you graduated at 16 early. Yeah. Then you kind of just went full head of steam into transitioning to the next level.
Yeah. So like when I started, I was still kind of didn't really have the idea. Like my 1st year, I was like, okay, I'm going to do chemistry and whatever. I was like an academic all-Canadian. I was like still pretty nerdy and still pretty into that. But I think when I got recruited to go to the CIS and go play for UBC in Vancouver, that was kind of like, okay, maybe things can kind of progress and go ahead. And I got also the gentle nudge from my coach there, Steve Manuel, that, you can stay here, but basically I'm kicking you out because I want you to go play at the higher level and see your potential. So that was kind of my start off point. And then the program with Doug Reimer and Jesse Knight was the assistant coach at the time. And they really kind of propelled my career and getting me onto the national team. And then I ended up finishing up 2 more years with UBC. We won 2 national championships back to back, actually. And then they went on to win 4 more after I graduated in a row. But yeah, so that was kind of the start of my national team career when I was 19, and then just retired from that like a year ago. So
I remember like on your calendar thing, you said if you could write a story about your journey, it would be, I believe it said, a decade of adventures.
Yeah.
So when you wrote that in your mind, what were you thinking?
It's just kind of funny actually, because so I graduated from UBC in 2009 and then did another summer with the national team and then went to play pro for my first season abroad. And so it was like the 2009 going into 2010 was my first year in Europe, and I was in Spain in the Canary Islands with my teammate Brooke Page. And it was just like my funniest stories of like life and pro come from this season. It was just like so ridiculous in so many ways. Went home at Christmas, like almost didn't come back, but went back and finished it out. And yeah, it's just funny because that was kind of the start of my pro career. So the last decade now, I've been back and forth on wrapping it up in this decade. But yeah, it's just been, I've been all over Europe. I've played in the Philippines. It's been 11 years with Team Canada. And yeah, it's just been a lot of adventures all over the world. So I think that sums it up for me.
Your passport probably just ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I've had 2 in that time, and they're both pretty full.
That's awesome. So going back to the volleyball and making the transition to kind of play with higher level competition, how did you, I guess, was an adjustment to your mentality, how you approached the game, or was it just always the same?
I think definitely, developed, I think, even from kind of a young age. I had like sort of athletic discipline instilled into me, if you will. From like I started dance when I was 3, and that was like a very disciplined sport or activity. And so I think I just always kind of had that. I think that's just part of my character, my personality is kind of like the athlete mindset. But definitely like as I progressed and got higher up in levels, that kind of became more of like my dreams. Once I made Team Canada, became, okay, now let's become an Olympian. And so that was the focus, and that's what I worked towards. I went to 2 Olympic qualifiers in 2012 and 2016. Very narrowly missed the 2016 qualification. And so that was pretty heartbreaking, but that was kind of the goal. That was like why I played volleyball, was always to hopefully get to the Olympics one day. And that was kind of what fueled me and what pushed me through a lot of difficult times for sure, and persevered through a lot of things and a lot of crazy seasons abroad in Europe playing pro and all that. But yeah, I think that was always my dream. Unfortunately, didn't happen, but had a lot of adventures along the way trying to get there.
Get there. So what kind of dance do you do, or did you do?
Definitely not anymore, but I was in jazz and ballet.
That's what's up. Well, if you're ever in the States, I'll challenge you to a dance battle.
Definitely not. I have no rhythm in terms of like dancing freely or hip hop. I was very structured.
Gotcha. It was straight plie then.
Oh yeah. I used to be very, very skinny. It was like definitely more of a dancer then than now, for sure.
Awesome. So you had your setbacks when it came to not making the Olympic team, and maybe not achieving that version of your dream and the goals. How did you, I guess, having your, the athlete mindset to say, all right, I'm going to bounce back, or I'm going to work to make another path that achieve another dream?
Yeah, I think like after the 2012 ones, it was like, yeah, it was pretty devastating. I was still pretty young then, and that was the huge goal. And then I was like, okay, like we've got another chance. 2016, I knew I wanted to do another 4 years for sure. And then when we missed the 2016 ones we lost in 4 sets against Puerto Rico. And if we had won, we would have got our berth. So that was like, I don't know, that one was almost sort of unbelievable. It was kind of bizarre, but at that time I had in my mind that I was still going to do another 4 years and go for the 2020. So I was like, okay, I still got another shot at it. So at the time it didn't register that like that was it for me. And like that was the last chance, because I thought that I was going to do another 4 years. So maybe it was better that I didn't realize that at the time that it was over.
And when you say it's over, I mean, like, I kind of realized like when I was running, I ran a conference at Big 12 and I got dead last in the 100.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, buddy, it's time to hang it up, Yeah. and I was like, so I now trying to figure out, okay, so if we're no longer being the student athlete, who is Jacoby? And so for you, when you said, all right, this is over, this is done with this chapter, how'd you say who was Marisa?
Well, so the funny thing is I did come back. I did another year, the 2017 summer with Team Canada. And it didn't really go as hoped for or planned for. We had been training, the 10 years that I was there. We were in Winnipeg, which probably doesn't mean a lot for most people, but if you're from Canada, you know what that means. Unless you're from Winnipeg and then you love it. But most other people, it's not the most desirable place to be, but especially for people from BC. So the team actually moved back to BC. We were in just outside of Vancouver. And so I had like huge hopes for the next quad and was super pumped on it, and then kind of got there and we had a whole new coaching staff and staff and everything. And a lot of new teammates, a lot had retired after the 2016 that I had kind of grown up in the program with. So it was like a whole new squad and everything. And it didn't really go as I had hoped. And I was contemplating just hanging up the knee pads then and calling it quits at the end of that summer. I ended up going to play in the Philippines. And kind of got reinvigorated on volleyball there. The fans there are just like next level, and just the love for volleyball there and kind of appreciation for the players is like just amazing. And had a good season there and enjoyed it. Finally enjoyed playing again. So I kind of decided, okay, I'm going to keep going, and I'm not going to. Actually, I went back in 2018 to Team Canada, and I was. Had mixed emotions about it, and ended up not staying with them that summer, and kind of felt like it was the right move. And I felt like it had wrapped up for me there, and I was done with it. So that was interesting. It was like my first summer off in like 15 years or something like that. So went to Greece, had a nice little vacation, enjoyed my summer off, and then came back and played a season in Greece, actually in Santorini. last year. So I still kind of been playing, and that was sort of the progression out of it. And then at the end of last season, which was like April this year, kind of went back to that, like, okay, I don't know now, like if I want to play or if I want to move on, and that kind of identity outside of sport has been a challenge the last 8 months or so, actually, to be honest. So kind of in the midst of it right now.
And in that kind of that limbo of like half in, half out type stuff, right?
Yeah. And the last 3 months have been quite sort of what you had mentioned, like with a little bit of the anxiety, the depression. You don't really know, you're in that limbo state. You don't really know where you want to go, and half in, half out. So yeah, it's just it's been an interesting end to this year and this decade.
It's the fun chapter, I think. It's like when it's just like there's a lot of uncertainty and you can't really, I don't know. It's a weird chapter for sure.
Yes. So actually, I just I started doing a job actually with a Canadian company, like a health and wellness company. They work with a lot of athletes, and I found it actually through a Team Canada, kind of like your retirement out of sport network through the program that they have. And I started working with them a few months ago. So doing brand management for some of their products. So it was kind of interesting to dabble into the real world life and see how that goes. And so I've been doing that and taking some time to figure out what I want to do, and actually just signed on with a team, and I'm in Athens now. So I signed on with a team here actually to do the second half of the season here, and kind of give myself a little bit more time to see how it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're doing like remote work, so that's always fun too, when you can live abroad and see the world.
Exactly. And Athens has been, I don't really understand. Well, it's beautiful here, but I don't know why. There's some undescribable feeling I have that I love it here, and it feels like home to me, kind of like my home away from home in Canada. So it's been a long, difficult process to get here the last few months, but seems to be working out, and pretty happy, and actually get to fulfill my lifelong career as a middle blocker. And actually, I'm going to play opposite for this second half of the season here for this team. So it'll be an interesting position change.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
2020 will be like a year of full new adventures for you.
Yeah, exactly. Just take on a whole new position and have a whole nother career going on.
So I've done a few interviews with other volleyball athletes that are playing ball and like that. So what would you say for any athlete, in North America that wants to play abroad? What would be your advice for them?
I think like if you're like a university player or something like that, and you're looking to go play abroad once you graduate, that kind of thing, I think definitely try to get a manager, like an agent, who's going to find you contracts and find you teams, and they'll know kind of the lowdown on which countries to go to and where you'd be best placed, and kind of what your priorities are if you want to go and like make a career of it, or if you just want to go and play somewhere that's maybe a little bit less pressure, less stress, but you want to have the experience. Like I totally recommend it for anyone who does play volleyball. Even just do a year abroad and just have the experience, even if you don't necessarily want to make a lifelong career out of it. But yeah, it's a very unique lifestyle and opportunity that I think is very difficult to compare or match with in any other type of career you're going to do, like in Canada or the States or anything like that. So definitely recommend it, but be prepared for an adventure.
Love it. So I'm a big foodie. So where have you had the best food abroad?
Ooh, actually, I think in Italy, at this like little grandma and grandpa's like attic restaurant, had some of the best pasta I've ever had in my life, like handmade pumpkin ravioli that I've like literally never forgotten about. This was probably like 8 years ago or something. I still think about it.
That's some good stuff then.
Yeah, Greek food is also very good. Big fan of the Greek food.
So you're now at this stage where you're progressing and you're figuring out this next chapter. Where do you hope to see everything land, or if you had a perfect world or perfect vision, how do you see the next few years or chapters going?
I think like I spent some time at home in Canada this summer, and it's kind of weird because I almost feel more foreign there than I do in Europe now, just because I've spent the last, 10 years spending most of my year playing abroad. So I feel like I've grown very accustomed to the European lifestyle, almost more so than the Canadian one. So I think if I could spend the next year or so at least in Athens and kind of transitioning out, continue with the work I'm doing remotely, and then, I don't know, see what falls into place. Or I'm kind of a big believer in, networking my way into things. So we'll see what happens over the next year, I think. And then after that, I might be ready to get back and settle down in Canada. But I don't know. We will see.
Or move to the U.S.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know how to make that happen. I've spent very little time there, but if that could happen, sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, a few more questions for you, just kind of wrap this up a little bit. So if you wrote a letter, like to your younger self, like what would you tell that 12-year-old girl who had the MSN, bio, said, I want to be a pro volleyball player? What would you tell her about the journey ahead?
It's going to take a lot of perseverance, a lot of dedication, self-discipline, hard work. It is definitely not going to be an easy path. But I think if you want it and you see your dreams in that and you want to go for it, I mean, it's cliche to say, but like anything is possible. And if you think you're 12 to 16-year-old and you're like, oh man, I really suck at volleyball, like I should just quit this. Like I was terrible. I couldn't even overhand serve until like grade 11. So it just goes to show, like, I was from Kelowna, BC, where not a lot of volleyball products come out of at the time anyways. I was like the only one from there. So just, keep pursuing what you want and working hard for it. And nobody's really going to work hard for you. So it's kind of comes up to what you want and what you want to get out of achieving your goals.
And then if your younger self asked you, if all the sacrifices, the disappointments, the ups and downs were worth it, what would you say?
I would say absolutely, because I think if you don't push yourself to your limits and push yourself to at least try to achieve your goals, like I said, my biggest goal is to be an Olympian, and I technically failed at that, I guess, but like I did everything that I could at the time to get there and to make that happen. And I've seen now like what I can do. And I know that anything, basically, like I feel like sport is a really good way to learn a lot about yourself and learn a lot about what you can do in life. And all those things kind of apply once you're out of sport or when you're in kind of real life, as we like to say. And it's just, you learn a lot of invaluable lessons from yourself and from your teammates and coaches and other people. And I definitely think it is a lot of sacrifice, but like when I look back in the last 10 years, like I'm really happy that I was able to pursue this and create this life. And it's definitely been very hard at times and in kind of unusual ways, more so than you don't do this, but it's definitely been very worth it.
Shoot for the moon and land in the stars.
Yeah, exactly.
It got to the Greece, though. That's a nice view.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot for the moon and land in Athens, and you're sitting pretty.
Make that a shirt.
That'll be my 2020 motto.
Shoot for the moon, land in Athens. I love it.
Yeah.
And last question for you: social media, websites. Where are you at?
Instagram is at pieces333. So that comes, actually, people always ask me about that. It's Marisa is my official name, but was very rarely called that throughout all of my sports career. It was Reese, which is like the Reese's Pieces thing. So Reese or Pieces was kind of my nickname. And also the Pieces is from that. So pieces333 on Instagram. And then my Twitter is Reese_PC. It's all very related. And my Facebook, I have a Marisa Field volleyball page, athlete page on there.
Love it.
Pretty much don't really use the personal one anymore. So
I'm guessing you were number 3?
Yeah, 3 was my UBC number actually that I won the national championships in. So that was kind of my special number.
Boom. I love it. Marisa, it's been great talking with you and kind of learning your story. And I think anyone listening to this, whether they're playing volleyball or any sport in the world, can really get value from every chapter of your story.
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely very, very bad when I started. So there's hope.
So hopefully, though, maybe next chapter you can do some chemistry still, though, You can start like a YouTube channel doing, like science fair experiments.
I have to go back and actually buy all the books that I failed to buy in university and actually relearn them all.
And
Kind of took on the cramming mentality of university. just get through it and then go to practice.
I know those struggles for sure.
Yeah. Being a student athlete definitely teaches you how to cope with extremely stressful situations.
It's 15 minutes to learn 3 chapters. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. I would just pray for a good exam schedule with at least like a day or two between my chem exams, and then I would cram in 2 days and like not sleep, write the exam, forget everything, and then like move on to the next one, and just hope it worked out well.
Cross your fingers for a good curve.
Yeah, and I always did well in the labs because I was good at actually doing it. So that would bring my mark up a little bit into a pass.
I'm with you on that. Hey, well, Marisa, it's been great. I hope you enjoy Athens, and everyone go follow her IG because I'm looking at all the pictures. I was like, man, I am in the Greece.
Like definitely my Instagram is a little bit of a Greece travel influencer page.
Like Phoenix is cool. Like Phoenix has like the cactus and the mountains and stuff. I'm like, but Greece looks like you're getting a little bit of everything. So
yeah, it's beautiful. And if you haven't been, I definitely recommend it.
Definitely. Hey, well, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the food, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Yo, thanks for listening to this episode of the 9 Point Started With a Dream podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please comment, share, leave a review. We would love to hear your thoughts. You can find more athlete-driven content at 9point.com. Till the next episode, you're only one opportunity away. Peace.